I think I've come up with a satisfactory solution to my nostrils. Alright, let's go ahead and jump in here, reactivate our view end result. Alright, what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to add a little bit of extra geometry. Actually, let me outline this so that you understand what's going to happen. I'm basically going to take these polygons here, I will inset them, and then I will extrude them upwards to create the nose. Now, as is, that makes kind of a nasty nose shape, and I want a little more control over the bridge area. So before I do that, I'm actually going to perform a little bit of surgery. I'm going to make a cut across here, through this area, and wrap it around here. Now, that'll do two things. Now, one thing, it'll give me more control over the bridge of the nose, and number two, it'll give me more definition over this nose area, because right now, with Mesh Smooth, if you take a look at this, it's a little bit amorphous, and I want it to be a little more protruding, a little more defined. And by having that extra edge loop there, that will accomplish that. So we will begin post-haste, because no time like the present. Let me turn off Mesh Smooth for the moment. Let me go to my cut tool and do that first. Okay, so I'm going to cut here, come across. First thing I'm going to do is cut right at the center and then connect it here. Now the reason for this is so that I can now cut across here, and I have quad geometry here, here, and here. Those are all quads, squares. So now I can continue my cut up the nose. This also gives me the added benefit of being able to better define the shape of the nose with this extra added incision here. So this is a actually. Oh wait, let me go ahead and get that a little bit closer. But I do think this is a good solution to my needs. Your needs might be different from my needs, so I mean, you know, there's not one cure-all for everything. But I think you can feel that this is a little more hard-edged now. This is a little better defined now that we have that extra incision there. Anyway, now that we have that, we can continue shaping and continue adjusting. I know I'm supposed to. I know that I was talking about taking care of that nostril, but for the moment, I see an opportunity to better define this area, and I'm gonna take it while I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I want that to be well and clearly defined. And later on, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to define this area, this crease area of the nostril. And we should be able to do that with the new geometry that we have. But for now, let's go ahead and start taking care of the nostril. This is do or die time. This is where it gets rough and or tumble. I will not lie to you. But for now, let's just go ahead and get in there. Let's just get in there with a knife and see what we can do. Okay, I'm going to grab that bunch right there, and I'm going to create an inset first, like I said before, like I did before. And before I do my extrude, I really want to shape this out to get a good nostril shape. I don't want to just jump away into the extrude as is. I want to try and really get this as well defined and modeled as possible, so as to get it right the first time. Now the reason I did the inset first is because I want that bridge, that rim around the nose to exist. I want that to be present during my during my extrude, because otherwise you would have a paper thin nose and it would feel very odd. And I can already tell that this will make the bridge of the nose too big, so let's go ahead and thin it out. Pull this area back, because this is going to be the area that's extruded up for the nostril, and this might still be too thick. But we'll make that judgment call once we extrude it and once we see it with the mesh smooth on. And let me grab this edge and pull it down a touch. I want to thin out or thin up the nostril area towards the front of the nose, because right now it's very wide, and that feels aesthetically unpleasing to me. And you know what? I'm gonna have to pull this up so that I can compensate for it. Okay, I can just grab this one, pull it back a little. And I think we're getting there. I think we're getting where we need to be, which is a good thing. I think that's feeling pretty good. I'm about ready to give that a try in mesh smooth. Some of the rimming around the rim of the nose is still a little bit thin, so I still need to make some adjustments there. And this is too thick by comparison, so let's go back in. Let me grab the inside walls of this fella. Pull those in, pull them, push them, move them all around. I do kind of want that outer edge a little further back. Don't know if it will necessarily look good, but we'll find out. And you know what? Oh, you know, I really didn't take the time to shape out this area, but I wanna, while I'm thinking about it and while I have the time. Maybe even pull this out a little further for contrast. Okay. Let me think this through. Do I want to pull this over and scale it out? I think I do. Let's just go with that as is. In general, I'm feeling the shape. I think that feels natural to me. Might want to try and exaggerate it out, just because the mesh smooth tends to pull back on it a little bit. I like the general shape of the nose, but still not convinced on my nostrils. It's funny because I'm probably going to be the only one staring up these nostrils. No one else will probably notice the difference, but that's okay. That's the price one pays for being a perfectionist. That's what I expect you to be. They're minor changes, but you know what? I think that will work. I think that's pretty workable, all things considered. That being said, with the mesh smooth on, this part kind of gets a little destroyed, so let's go ahead and push that part back a touch. Better. Definitely better. Alright, let me see if there are any other changes that I want to make while I'm here. Because now's the time to go ahead and do a little bit of extra. Try and take your model the rest of the way. Okay, you know what I need? I need to better define this nostril because, like I said, the mesh smooth is melting it a little too much around this area. So I want to emphasize the crease, and the way I can do that is the same way I did with my nose, is to add a little bit of geometry and to try and play it off of each other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a cut, or take my cut tool, and create an incision up here at the inside of this nostril. Now, it will be creating an n-gon, but you know what? I'm not worried about it. There are a couple of places where you can get away with creating n-gons, and those are inside the eye socket, inside the mouth, and inside the nostrils. Basically, it's the orifice clause. Any place where you're going to have a hole into which no one is going to gaze, then you can create extra geometry that comes out from that area. And now you know. It's one of the few exceptions, but don't let me catch you using any geometry or elsewhere in the rest of all of this. All right, so here I'm going to wrap this around same way I did before with this bottom area of the nose, and I'm creating this interesting little trisection to keep my geometry quad. Let me go ahead and show you that again. I'm going to wrap this around by cutting from here to the center, over. And now I connect this by taking this corner and cutting it over to there. And now I can finish this the rest of the way by bringing this back around, and the mirror will help me finish off making sure that the rest of this stays quad. Alright, good. Now, with this extra geometry, I will attempt to further define this back area of the nose to try and help really make it a crease. So I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to pull these areas in. Pull them up a little too. Oop. Looks like I accidentally created an extra edge, as usual, with my cut tool. I've said it before to you all, but I'll say it again. The cut tool is a dangerous tool. You've got to be really careful when you're using it, because otherwise it'll mess with you. It'll break on you quite intentionally. And you know what? I should use some of this geometry just to continue the shape of this nose, just to make sure. Actually, okay, it's getting a little too, what's the term that I'm looking for? A little too juvenile, so let me go ahead and pull this around and bump it out, like such. That might even create a bit of a nostril flare. We'll see how that affects it and make adjustments accordingly. Better. It's more defined, but it's a little too tiny. I'm actually going to pull this up even further, and I'm going to try and actually buff this out a little bit, because right now it's actually a little too round and a little too bubbly, which is very unmanly for this character. So, and you know what else I should do? I should refer this back to my reference to make sure that it's not getting, that I'm not straying too far from the original concept. Hang on, let me grab some of this inside geometry as well. Pulls this up as well because it just feels a little too scrunched. Yeah, let me dull this up a little because before it was just a little too defined, a little too pointy. Turn on the mesh smooth again, hit F4, turn off that display of pixels. Alright, I think that's working pretty well. I think that's a pretty well defined nose. Let me go ahead and Alt W and check out. It's a little expanded off of my concepts here, but it's also a little crunched in here. I can try and pull those back and forth just to see what sort of results I'll get. But for the most part, you know, from what I see, I'm liking what I'm getting. So that ain't bad. Let's go ahead and pull this back in just a touch. Actually, if I'm going to do that, let me go ahead and grab the parts that make it as well, so as to ensure that I don't overreach. Okay, grab that, pull that in a little bit. Okay, that's matching up pretty closely. And once I actually have Mesh Smooth turned on, that matches pretty well. The one issue that I can see clearly from here is that still isn't pulled over as much. So let's go ahead and let's experiment for a moment. Let's just grab some of that and give it a tug here in a moment, just as soon as I can grab all of the appropriate geometry. Alright, here we go. Oh, there we go. Pull that back. That's a pretty heavy pull, I gotta say. It really pulls the geometry out, and the only way that I can really fix that would be, again, to push that forward. You know what? I'm gonna say leave it as is. Leave this as I originally had it, and not try and tempt fate too much and pull that back too far, because otherwise it just gets too much in the way of things. Alright, not bad. This is a pretty good place to be. I believe I'm going to wrap this up with one more lesson, and that will just be or one more demo, and that's just going to be to define the jaw and lower face area. That'll be a good place, I think, to end and to set that fella up.